Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is one that's close to my heart because we're diving into something I believe every person in recovery needs to hear. Why you need support. And before we go any further, I want to be really transparent with you. This episode includes something I don't normally do. I am talking openly about the Eating Disorder Recovery Circle, which is the community my husband and I have built and the space I'm inviting you into. And I want to be really clear about why I'm mentioning it, because it's not about selling something. It's because I know without a doubt that community and connection are vital for healing. And for far too long, eating disorders have told us the opposite. I created the recovery circle because when I was deep in my own eating disorder, I felt completely alone. Even when I was surrounded by people, I didn't feel seen. Even when I looked fine on the outside, I was falling apart inside. And I couldn't find a space that felt real, that didn't focus just on food or weight, but on the whole person, on the deep emotional work, on the reparenting, the body trust, the shame, the inner child, on actual recovery, not just weight gain and pretending you're okay. So I built that space, not just for others, but because I needed it too. It's everything I needed when I was in recovery. And now it's become a beautiful, supportive home for so many people walking this recovery path. I'm sharing about it in this episode specifically because this is the lie I hear the most. I should be able to do this on my own. I don't deserve support. And I know just how much that belief keeps people stuck, exhausted, and ashamed. So today, I'm not just going to tell you why support matters. I'm also going to challenge the belief that you have to earn it or deserve it or be more unwell before you can ask for it. Because you don't. You deserve support now, not when you're sicker, not when you're more perfect, not when you've got it together, but now. So let's get into it. Why you need support in recovery and what might finally be possible for you when you stop trying to do it all alone. So let's begin by naming the lie that the eating disorder voice tells you about needing support. The most dangerous lie the eating disorder tells you isn't don't eat. It's not you're fat. It's not even you're a failure. It's this one, that you don't need support. Because that lie is the one that keeps everything else in place. It keeps you silent. It keeps you alone. And it keeps the eating disorder in control. That voice might actually sound reasonable, polite even. It might whisper, I'm managing. I'm getting by. I don't want to be dramatic. I should be able to handle this on my own. Other people have it worse. I'm not even that sick. I'll reach out if it gets worse. Or one of the most heartbreaking of them all, so I don't want to waste anyone's time. Does that sound familiar? These thoughts don't scream like the eating disorder's other voice. They don't feel like danger. They feel like logic, like modesty, like being considerate. But underneath, they're soaked in self-abandonment. Because what's really being said is this: my pain doesn't matter. My struggle doesn't count. I am not worth supporting. So let me be really clear here. That is not the truth. That is the eating disorder doing what it does best. Shrinking your voice, minimizing your needs, and isolating you from the very things that would help you heal. And it's convincing. I spent years, you've possibly spent years, or even decades like me, trying to earn love by being low maintenance, not needing too much, being the strong one, and asking for support can feel like failure. It might feel like weakness, even dangerous, like vulnerability you're not allowed to show, like evidence that you're broken and someone might find out. But here's the reframe. The eating disorder thrives when you're isolated because it becomes the only voice you hear. And that voice will do everything in its power to keep you from reaching out. So if you're telling yourself, I'm managing, I want to gently ask, what does managing really mean? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating with peace and satisfaction? Do you feel safe in your own body? Are you free from obsessive thoughts, rules, shame, or exhaustion? Or are you managing just enough to survive, but not to live? Because, my love, managing is not healing. It's coping. It's treading water. And you deserve more than that. Another common lie the eating disorder tells you is other people are worse off than me. I'm not even that sick. I'm not at a low enough weight. And this one is so insidious because it sounds like empathy, but really it's self-erasure. Saying you only deserve care if you're suffering the most. That's not empathy. That's a scarcity mindset created by a system that taught you that your pain doesn't count unless it's dramatic. Your pain doesn't need to be the worst to be valid. You don't need to collapse in front of people to deserve to be held. You don't need to be hospitalized to be hurting. And you certainly don't need to be starving to be suffering. And then there's this one. I'm not sick enough. Let's talk about that. Where did you learn that your worth, your right to be helped, is dependent upon how visibly unwell you are? Why is it that you only allow yourself compassion if your body looks like it's dying? The truth is the eating disorder will never let you believe you're sick enough to deserve help. Even at your lowest point, it will say, you're still not really that bad. You could go further. You're not as thin as her. You're faking it. And it moves the goalposts constantly. Because if you believed you were sick enough, you might get help. And help is a threat to the eating disorder. So if you're waiting for that moment when the eating disorder gives you permission to seek support, it's not coming. You don't need permission. You don't need to justify your pain. You don't need to explain your history, your diagnosis, your BMI, or your worst day. You just need to be human and hurting. And that's enough. Let's slow things down here and get really honest, because for so many people, especially those in recovery, this belief of I don't deserve support doesn't feel like a thought. It feels like a fact, like a truth that's always been there. But it's not the truth. It's something you learned, something your nervous system absorbed over time until it became the water you swam in. And the thing is, you may not even realize where that belief came from. Because a lot of people in recovery didn't have childhoods they'd describe as traumatic. They might say things like, my parents did their best. I had food on the table. There wasn't anything bad that happened to me. And now I want to gently name something that might be a light bulb moment. You can have had a good childhood and have still experienced emotional neglect. You might not remember screaming or violence or chaos, because emotional neglect is quieter than that. It looks like your big feelings being too much for the adults around you, so you learn to shrink them. It looks like not being soothed when you were scared or validated when you were sad, so you learned to hide those feelings away. It looks like being praised for being good, quiet, helpful, or achieving, but not for being messy, real, vulnerable, or simply you. And that shapes something deep inside. It teaches you that your needs are inconvenient, that your emotions are embarrassing, that your job is to manage on your own. And by the time you're an adult, that childhood adaptation has become your identity. You call yourself independent. You pride yourself on not needing help. You don't want to take up space or be a burden. But inside, there's still a part of you, still waiting for someone to notice your pain. It's what emotional neglect does. It makes you doubt your right to be seen. It makes you feel guilty for having needs. And in recovery, that turns into, I should be able to do this by myself. I'm not that bad. Other people need the support more than I do. I don't want to take it away from them. But here's what's really going on. When your emotional needs weren't met as a child, your nervous system adapted. Your brain learned to suppress emotion rather than express it. Your body learned that vulnerability leads to discomfort, silence, or shame, not safety. And so now, when someone offers you help, you flinch. Not physically maybe, but emotionally. You brace yourself for judgment or rejection or failure because it feels like history might repeat itself. Even though you want to reach out, your body remembers how unsafe it once felt to need someone. And then the eating disorder comes in and confirms all this. It becomes the safe place, the predictable routine, the thing that never asks too much of anyone else, just everything from you. It says, don't rely on anyone. You've got me. You don't need support. Just follow my rules. But sweetheart, that's not safety. That's survival. That's coping. And it's lonely. So lonely. Now, let's bring in some science. You know I love my science. Because this isn't just about childhood memories. It's about how your brain and nervous system were wired in response to your environment. When emotional neglect happens, the brain's threat system becomes hyper alert. The amygdala, which processes fear and danger, stays switched on. So vulnerability, even something like asking for support, can feel dangerous, even when it's not. At the same time, the oxytocin system, which helps us feel safe and connected with others, may be underdeveloped. So even receiving kindness might feel awkward, overwhelming, or suspicious, like something you haven't learned to trust yet. And it's not your fault. This wiring was your body's way of keeping you safe in an environment that didn't always meet your needs. But now it's holding you back. And here's the most powerful part, because your brain is changeable. Your nervous system can heal. But you can't do that in isolation. Because the only way to rewire connection is through connection. Support isn't just a nice idea. It's medicine for the part of you that never got to feel held. So if you've spent your life believing you had to manage alone, this might feel radical and even wrong. But maybe for the first time you get to ask, what if I don't have to cope alone anymore? What if I don't have to earn support by being on the brink of collapse? What if support is the very thing that leads to freedom? This is the turning point, sweetheart. Not when you finally hit rock bottom, but when you realize you were worthy of support all along. Let's talk about something that every eating disorder has in common, no matter the behaviors, the diagnosis, or the severity. It thrives in isolation. It feeds on silence, on secrecy, on disconnection. Because when you're alone, when you're cut off from the truth, support, and reflection, the eating disorder becomes the only voice in the room. And it's persuasive, isn't it? It says, don't tell anyone. They wouldn't understand. If they knew, they'd judge you, or worse, try to stop you. And it's not that bad anyway. Keep it to yourself. You're fine. It convinces you that isolation is safety, that staying small and silent is strength, that needing someone is weakness. But sweetheart, that's not strength. That's fear disguised as control. So let me say this really clearly. Disconnection is not protection. It's prison. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. Disconnection is not protection. It's prison. And the longer you stay in that prison of secrecy, the harder it becomes to know what's even true anymore. Because in isolation, the eating disorder rewrites reality. It tells you that 500 calories is plenty, that being cold, tired, and dizzy is normal, that pushing through hunger is a good day, that your body is the problem, not your pain. And without another voice in the room, without someone to challenge that narrative, it becomes your truth. And I know how the truth can feel comforting in a kind of twisted way. Because when you're isolated, at least you're not exposed. No one's watching. No one's questioning. No one's interrupting the rituals you secretly rely on to feel safe. But I want to ask you something. Are you really safe in that silence? Or are you just invisible? Because isolation doesn't heal you. It hides you. It hides your fear. It hides your needs. It hides your beautiful, aching human self, the part of you that wants so desperately to connect, to be known, to be loved. And you might think, well, I'm just not good at connection, or people drain me, or no one really gets it anyway. And to some degree, that might be true, because eating disorders quite literally disconnect you from yourself. You stop trusting your hunger. You disconnect from your joy. You numb your emotions. You lose touch with what you even want or need. And when you're so disconnected from yourself, it is almost impossible to connect fully with anyone else. So it's no wonder that support feels foreign. It's no wonder that asking for help feels like trying to speak a language you were never taught. But recovery isn't about forcing yourself into connection. It's about relearning that connection can be safe, that your voice matters, that being seen doesn't equal being shamed, that you don't have to earn your place in a community by being healed first. Let me tell you what support actually does. It gives you reflection, someone to say, that thought isn't truth, it's fear. Someone to remind you who you are when you forget. Someone to witness the messiness of recovery and say you're still worthy. Support gives you new experiences, the ones the eating disorder told you weren't possible. Like eating with someone who gets it, crying and not being told to stop, sharing your truth and still being loved. And the more of those experiences you have, the weaker the eating disorder becomes. Because eating disorders can't survive where there is light, where there is laughter, where there is truth, vulnerability, and connection. That's why the eating disorder recovery circle is so powerful. Not because people are perfect or always doing it right, but because they're showing up together. They're bringing their realness, their courage, their fear, their growth. And in doing so, they're undoing the isolation the eating disorder built. So I want to ask you, where are you still hiding? Where are you still convincing yourself that isolation is safer than support? And what might be possible if you let yourself be seen? Let's get really honest here. There's a story a lot of people are told by doctors, treatment teams, by the world, and it sounds like this. Once you gain the weight back, you'll be okay, as if the only thing broken was your BMI, as if healing could be measured by what you see in the mirror. The truth is that weight restoration is necessary, yes, but it's not the same thing as recovery. Yes, your body needs consistent nourishment. Yes, your brain can't begin to heal without enough energy. And yes, physical repair is a crucial first step. But that's all it is, a first step. Because you can gain weight and still feel trapped. You can eat the meal but still hate yourself afterwards. You can look fine on the outside but feel like a complete mess inside. And what no one talks about enough is that for many people, weight gain actually intensifies the inner pain because the eating disorder is no longer numbing it. The body starts to change, but all the unhealed beliefs underneath are still loud and raw. So what does real recovery look like? Real recovery is the moment you stop punishing yourself for having needs. It's the moment you speak to yourself with kindness, not because you've earned it, but because you finally realize that you've always deserved it. And to get there, you have to go deeper. You have to meet the part of you that first learned to disconnect from your body. You have to go back, not to relive the pain, but to finally give yourself what you didn't get the first time. That's where inner child work becomes such a powerful part of the healing journey. Because beneath every food rule, every body check, every compulsion to restrict is a younger version of you. A part of you that felt unsafe, unseen, not good enough, or too much. That child learned to cope by trying to control, by shrinking their needs, by earning love through performance, achievement, thinness, or silence. And maybe they never heard, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do anything to deserve love. It's okay to take up space. It's okay to rest. It's okay to be you. Recovery is your chance to say these things to them now. To wrap your arms around the child inside you and say, I see you. You never had to carry that pain alone. You didn't deserve the silence, the pressure, the fear. I'm here now, sweetheart. I've got you. That's reparenting. That's healing. And that's where true freedom begins. Because freedom isn't just eating a croissant without panic. Freedom is laughing in the sunshine with your hair a mess, no makeup, without once wondering how your thighs look. Freedom is saying no to plans because you need rest, not because you're avoiding food. Freedom is ordering what you want to eat without checking the menu ahead of time and without scanning the table to see what everyone else is having. Freedom is knowing you are already good enough, even on the days when you're bloated and tired and haven't achieved a single thing. Recovery isn't about controlling your body until you finally like it. It's about letting go of the idea that you have to be anything other than yourself to be loved. And yes, that might mean weight gain. Edit. And yes, that might mean weight gain. That might mean softness. That might mean facing the terror of no longer being the thin one, the fit one, the healthy one. But on the other side of that grief is something so much more powerful. Peace, joy, wholeness, presence, pleasure. And you deserve all of that. Not because you've ticked enough boxes or reached some magical point in healing, but simply because you're human. Because your worth was never up for debate. So if you've restored your weight, but still feel imprisoned by food thoughts, body shame, or the belief that you're not enough, please hear me. You haven't failed. You haven't gone backwards. You're just standing at the door of the deeper work. And this is where support matters more than ever. Inside the Eating Disorder Recovery Circle, this is some of the work we do. Not just food, not just weight, but you. The part of you that needs to be seen. The part of you that's exhausted from holding it all together. The part of you who's ready to heal, not just survive. We reconnect you to your inner child. We explore body image, shame, fear, identity, and joy. We remind you of the life that's waiting for you when food no longer runs the show. You're allowed to want more than weight restoration. You're allowed to want to live a life that's full. You're allowed to be free. And you don't have to do it alone. So now we've arrived at the heart of it all. You've heard the lies the eating disorder tells you. You've learned how your brain was wired to protect you, not shame you. You've seen how the isolation creates the perfect breeding ground for the disorder to thrive. And you now know that weight restoration alone cannot set you free. But there's one thing we still need to talk about, and that's you. You, the one who might still be saying, okay, but I'm not sure I deserve support. So let's stop right here and take a breath. Close your eyes if you can. Place a hand on your heart and hear this. You are not a burden. You are not too much. You are not too far gone or too mild to matter. You don't have to earn kindness or care or connection. You are allowed to need support. Let's pause and really let that in. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to let someone hold space for you. You are allowed to say, I'm not okay, and I don't want to do this alone anymore. Because the truth is, no one heals in isolation. No one builds self-worth by white-knuckling through pain on their own. We become through connection. And support isn't just about having someone tell you what to do. It's about having someone standing beside you and saying, I see you. I believe in the version of you that's still buried under fear, and I'm not leaving just because you're struggling. That's the power of support. Support mirrors back the truth when your inner critic is lying to you. Support brings you back into your body when all you want to do is disappear. Support helps you remember your why on the days when recovery feels pointless. Support is someone else holding the hope for you until you're strong enough to hold it for yourself. And there's something else I need to say. You don't have to be at rock bottom to reach out. You don't have to collapse in front of someone to be sick enough to deserve help. In fact, the moment you feel yourself starting to disconnect, to spiral, to shrink, that's the moment support is most powerful. So I want to ask you something directly, sweetheart. What would happen if you let yourself be supported before things got worse? What if this time you choose to be held, not just survive? What if you stopped asking, am I worthy of support? And started asking, what kind of life do I want to build with it? Because support isn't a rescue boat. It's not about being saved. It's a bridge back to yourself, to your power, to your joy, to your truth. And in the eating disorder recovery circle, that's what we're building together. We're building a space where you can breathe, where you can let the mask fall away, where you can cry, laugh, be raw, honest, and be enough, just as you are. We do the deep work, body image, shame, guilt, rest, identity, worth, emotions, inner child, freedom. We don't pretend recovery is easy, but we make sure you never have to walk it alone. And if your heart has been aching through this episode, if something in you is whispering, this is what I need, then that's your sign. It's your sign that you're ready to say yes, not just to support, but to you. So this is your permission slip, my love. You're allowed to step into a space that honors your healing. You're allowed to receive what you spent a lifetime giving. You're allowed to want more than just being not sick. You're allowed to be free. And the moment you say yes to support, something changes. Not everything, not instantly, but something important. Because saying yes is saying, I'm done doing this alone. I'm done believing I have to earn care. I'm choosing freedom over fear. Saying yes is saying, I'm choosing me. So, sweetheart, if this episode has stirred something in your heart, if you're realizing you've been holding everything alone, waiting for permission to reach out, Let this be that moment. Let this be the day you say, I'm allowed to be supported and I'm allowed to want freedom. I don't have to be more sick, more ready, or more in control to begin. Because you don't need to earn support. You just need to say yes to it. And if you're wondering where to start, if you want a space that's safe, uplifting, genuinely transformational, I want to invite you to come along and join us inside the Eating Disorder Recovery Circle. This isn't just another online group. It's a space where recovery starts to feel possible and where you no longer have to figure it out all alone. The Recovery Circle is a powerful, compassionate membership space for people who are ready to move beyond just coping and actually create a life of food freedom, body trust, and deep self-worth. The Eating Disorder Recovery Circle can go alongside therapy, other treatment, or it can be everything. It's ready for everyone. Here's what's waiting for you inside. There's coaching workshops and themed sessions that go far beyond the food, into body image, fear of weight gain, guilt, shame, self-worth, pleasure, identity. There's the Feeling Navigator, which is an interactive emotional support tool where you can explore what you're feeling and find immediate compassionate guidance through videos, science-based insights, meditations, and practical tools. A growing library of lessons and resources on everything from body changes, rest, extreme hunger, navigating relationships to setting boundaries and building a life you actually want. There are courses on fear of weight gain, finding your why, and many more coming soon. Regular question and answer sessions where I personally answer your questions so you're never left alone or stuck. You get real support rooted in real lived experience and a deep understanding. And most importantly, you get a community that gets it. People who understand the thoughts you're afraid to say out loud. People who will walk beside you and say you're not alone and you're doing so much better than you think. You don't need to be doing recovery perfectly. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be not struggling. You just need to show up with your truth, your tenderness, and your willingness to try again. The Eating Disorder Recovery Circle is where the healing goes deeper, where we rebuild trust, where we soften the shame, and where we remember together that you've always been enough. There's a place for you here, a seat at the table that's already yours. You'll find the link in the show notes to learn more and join whenever you're ready. And if you're feeling nervous, that's okay. That's completely normal. It just means something inside knows it's time. You don't have to do this alone. You never did, sweetheart. And I'll be right here, walking beside you with love and freedom.